Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I am Muhammad Abu Bakr, and in this video we are going to solve the Cambridge O level May June 2021 chemistry 5070 question paper number 11, paper 1 of multiple choice questions only. So let's start our video. A student has to measure 28.2 centimeter cube of aqueous sodium bromide. Which piece of apparatus should the student select here? So he has to measure 28.2 centimeter cube of sodium bromide. So this beaker here has very large calibrations on it. So a beaker would definitely not help him to measure 28.2 centimeter cube. The next one is a burette. In this burette, 28.2 centimeter cube can easily be measured because this stopper at the end allows him to measure a specific quantity in something. So yes, B can be right answer. In C, this is a pipette, and this pipette has a fixed volume. This is a graduated pipette, and this fixed pipette cannot help him measure 28.2 centimeter cube of aqueous sodium bromide. C is also incorrect. In D, this is a measuring cylinder. In this measuring cylinder, the least reading is in uh, 1 centimeter cube. It is in 1 centimeter cube, or if it is in 0.1 centimeter cube, still this measuring cylinder uh, is does not allow the student to measure accurately, because this measuring cylinder does not have something like this burette, something like a stopper which this burette has. So yes, a burette will be more superior than measuring cylinder in this case. So B is the right option. Which property of a liquid ester can be used to check its purity before used as a food flavoring? So a boiling point can be used to check the purity, because esters have specific boiling points, and if the boiling point is uh, accurate, then we can conclude that it is pure. The color, no, a color of ester cannot help us determine its purity. A smell of ester again not helps us detect its purity. And solubility in water, esters are not soluble in water. So A is the right option. Which sequence of procedures is used to separate a pure dry sample of hydrated copper sulfate from a mixture containing hydrated copper sulfate and calcium carbonate? So from a mixture containing hydrated copper sulfate and calcium carbonate. So we will not carry out distillation, because distillation will purify the water and then we would be left with the salt. So we will not carry out distillation. However, if we dissolve these into the salts, the we would be left with copper sulfate as an insoluble salt, as a precipitate, and then we can filter this out, and then if we crystallize this copper sulfate, we can obtain pure samples of hydrated copper sulfate. So B is the right answer. In A, there is again distillation involved, so distillation would not help as well, because it is a very lengthy and hectic procedure. So B is the right option. J is an aqueous solution. On addition of sodium hydroxide to J, a green precipitate is formed. The resulting mixture is heated and no gas is formed. Aluminium foil (Al foil) is added to the warmed mixture. A gas is formed that turns damp red litmus paper blue. So which ions could be present in J? So first of all, when sodium hydroxide is added to this J, a green precipitate is formed. And in these options we have ferric and ferrous ions. So I will only go with ferrous ions here, because ferrous ions form a green precipitate. The the ferric ions form a red brown precipitate. So A and B are incorrect. Now first thing is that we have iron, the iron ions in this mixture, and now we have to find if this mixture has ammonium ions or nitrate ions. So simply, if we check this, if aluminium foil is added to heated sodium hydroxide, ammonia is produced. Ammonia is produced, and there is already OH negative ions present in the solution because of the ferric oxide, oh sorry, ferrous oxide. So ammonia would be formed. Whereas if we directly heat the ammonium solution, directly heat, this ammonia would be formed. But in this case, first of all, sodium hydroxide is added to this ammonium solution, so this will give no reaction. So mm, I would go with nitrate ions, because nitrate ions would give a reaction first of all with sodium hydroxide, and then if we add aluminium to the heated mixture of this, ammonia is formed, which turns red litmus paper blue. So it is a basic gas. So yes, I would go with D. D is the right option. Gas X has the following properties: colorless, no effect on either damp red or blue litmus papers. So chlorine is not colorless, no effect on either damp or red blue litmus papers. Chlorine has an effect. No effect on lime water. Hydrogen does not have any effect on lime water and is flammable. Hydrogen is highly flammable. Where oxygen is also flammable, but oxygen has an effect on lime water. So if we add oxygen to lime water, and this already contains some kind of OH negative ions, so it may form calcium hydroxide. So oxygen is incorrect. C is the right option. Which particle contains most electrons? So oxygen with a charge of -3 means it has total of 11 electrons. 8 plus 3 is equal to 11. Neon has 10. Sodium has 11 plus 1. 1 is being gained here. So it has 12, whereas magnesium had lost 3. So that is 12 minus 3, that is 9. So C, sodium ion has the greatest, has the most electrons here. So C is the right option. The diagram shows the structure of two solids P and Q. Which row is correct? So has covalent bonding and conducts electricity. In P, you can see that this contains carbon atoms. So the carbon atoms are bonded to 4 carbons here. So that is something like a structure of a diamond. Whereas in P, the carbon is bonded to 2 carbon atoms and has 1 electron, and this electron is responsible for conducting electricity. This is satisfied by this structure shown in this diagram. So conducts electricity Q only, whereas the carbons form covalent bonds with each other. So both P and Q have covalent bonding. So D is the right answer. What is a covalent bond? A pair of electrons shared by two non-metallic atoms. A pair of electrons shared by two non-metallic atoms. So if chlorine and chlorine bond together, they form a covalent bond. Yes, they can. Electrons being shared. So yes, they are shared by a lattice of positively charged ion. No, they are not positively charged ions. Elements losing electrons to achieve a noble gas structure. Elements losing electrons. Elements might also gain electrons to achieve a noble gas structure. So this is a half true statement. So C is also incorrect. Oppositely charged particles strongly each other. So this is in the case of ionic bonds. So A makes most sense. So A is the right answer. The empirical formula of X is CH2. So and the relative formula, molecular mass is 70. This is an alkane, so CH2. What is the molecular formula of X? So the MR is 70, so 12 plus 12, that this will not satisfy. A is also incorrect. So C5 is 60 and 10 of hydrogens. So C is the right option. D is incorrect because he has asked us the molecular formula, not the simple general formula. 10th is a tricky question, an A star question, I would say. A chemist wants to make calcium nitrate. They start with 8 grams of pure calcium oxide and an excess of dilute HNO3. They produce 12.6 grams of pure dry anhydrous calcium nitrate crystals. What is the percentage yield of calcium nitrate? So first of all, I would write down the reaction. So he starts with calcium oxide to dilute nitric acid, which gives us calcium nitrate and water here. So I would add 2 here to balance the equation. So if 1 gram of calcium or hydroxide reacts with 2 moles of HNO3, it would produce 1 mole of calcium nitrate and 1 mole of water here. So mm, now in this case, they start with 8 gram of pure calcium oxide. Calcium oxide has a formula mass of 56. So if I calculate the number of moles equal to mass over molar mass, that is 8 over 56. So that is something like 0.14. So if I use 0.14 moles of calcium oxide, then it would react with 0.28 moles of HNO3, which will give us 0.14 mole of calcium nitrate and 0.14 mole of water here. Now they have produced 12.56 grams in this case. So first of all, we would find out how much grams should actually be produced, should have been actually produced, and how many grams have been produced. So I would simply multiply. So first of all, I will have to find the atomic mass of calcium nitrate, that is 40 plus 28 plus 96. So that is 164, and I multiply this with 0.14. So oh, sorry, I have divided it here, 164 into 0.14. So that is 22.96 grams should have been produced if 8 gram is reacted. Now the actual produced amount produced here is 12.6 grams. So for yield, we have formula yield is equal to actual production over theoretical production times 100. So I would simply put values. Actual production is 12.65, whereas theoretical is 22.9 grams something, and I multiply this by 100. So that is 12.65 divided by 22.96. So that is 55% approximately. So 54 is the nearest to 55. So A is the right option. The relative formula masses of 4 compounds are given. A student has a 1 gram sample of each compound. Which sample contains the highest number of moles of oxygen atoms? So highest number of moles of oxygen atoms. So number of moles is equal to mass over molar mass once again. So 1 gram over 102, 1 over 80, 1 over 98, and 1 over 63. If I put these values here, this is going to be something lengthy, this question once again. So that is 0.0098098. So for copper oxide, we have 1 over 80, 1 divided by 80, that is 0.0125. And for H2SO4, we have 1 over 98, so that is 0.010. And for uh, nitric acid, we have 1 divided by 63, that is 0.015. Now we have to find the number of oxygen atoms which are actually present in this in these compounds. So in Al2O3 there are 3, so I would have to multiply by this by 3 to find the number of moles of oxygen atoms, whereas 1 to 5 it has only one, so this will remain same. In H2SO4 I would have to multiply it by 4, and in HNO3 I will have to multiply it by 3. So I have 0.015 already, so I will directly multiply HNO3 with 3, so that is 0.046. For H2SO4 I have 0.010 multiply 4, so that is 0.04. For copper oxide we have 0.0125, and I multiply this per 1, so this is the same as I had said earlier, and 0.0098 multiply 3, so that is 0.0299. So for 0 this 0.0299, 0.0125. So HNO3 in this case has the greatest number of moles of oxygen atoms. So D is the right answer. How many elements combine to form the compound ammonium sulfate? So ammonium sulfate is NH4 positive and SO4 negative. So 1, 2, 3 and 4. B is the right option. An aqueous mixture of copper nitrate and silver nitrate is electrolyzed with pure copper electrodes, which Hove equation correctly describes the change occurring at the anode. So by the principle of red cat, reduction occurs at cathode and oxidation occurs at anode. What is oxidation? Oxidation is the loss of electrons. So I will rule out B and D because these are reduction. Whereas if I have to differentiate between copper and silver, copper is above silver in the reactivity series. Copper is above silver, so copper would react more vigorously. So A is the right option. The diagram shows the electrolysis of concentrated and dilute aqueous sodium chloride using inert electrodes. Gases are produced and collected in each of the test tubes W, X, Y, Z. Which statements are correct? So in this case, this positive terminal of the battery is connected to this W. So this is the anode. This would be cathode, and this is the cathode here, and that Y would be anode here. So now in this left hand half solutions, aqueous concentrated aqueous sodium chloride is being used, so there would be lower amount of OH negative ions in this solution. So the change occurring at the cathode and at the anode, so they are, so at W there should be oxidation. Oxidation is loss of electrons, so chlorine would be deposited at W along with hydrogen, whereas the H positive ions would gain the same 2 electrons at the W at the cathode, so H2 would be deposited. So equal amounts of moles of uh, X and Y are produced which have equal volumes, so I would choose A of 1 as the right option. In B, in this right half cell, we have dilute aqueous sodium chloride, so it will have Na positive, Cl negative. Now OH negative would be greater than Cl negative ions. So if I check this here at the cathode, at the cathode So at the so in this again moving on the left hand beaker, Cl2 is being produced here as I have said, and H2 is being produced here. Now in Y and Z, first of all, uh, oxidation would take place. Oxidation would take place at the node, so 4OH negative would lose electron to form two water molecules and oxygen along with four electrons, whereas at the cathode where the reduction take place, 2H positive will react with two electrons negative to form hydrogen gas. But here there are four electrons. There are four electrons. So I will have to multiply this by 2. So 2H2 are being produced here, and only one oxygen is being produced. So not equal volumes or not equal moles of gases are produced in Y and Z. 2 is incorrect, whereas three different gases are produced in the experiment. Yes, chlorine, hydrogen and oxygen are being produced. So 1 and 3 are correct. Only D is the right option. Which positive ions are present in aqueous copper sulfate? So aqueous copper sulfate would have copper ion and hydrogen ion. So B is the right answer. These statements refer to hydrogen and its use as a fuel. Both water and hydrocarbons can be used as a source of hydrogen. Yes, they can be. In a fuel cell, hydrogen reacts with oxygen to generate electricity. Yes, this is true. This is true. 1 and 2 are correct. Whereas the reaction taking place in a fuel cell is a redox reaction. Yes, oxygen is being reduced and hydrogen is being oxidized. So both also all these three statements are correct. D is the right option. Ethanol is produced by the fermentation of glucose from sugarcane. In some countries, ethanol is used as a fuel. Which statements are correct? So, sugarcane is a non-renewable infinite source. Since sugarcane is a crop, it can be produced again and again. So, it is a renewable energy source or renewable resource. So, one is incorrect. When sugarcane is growing, it removes CO2 from the atmosphere. So when sugarcane is growing, it does photosynthesis, and photosynthesis uh, involves CO2 absorption to produce glucose and oxygen. So it does remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So B is the right option. Which changes will speed up a chemical reaction? Decreasing the pressure in the reaction between the gases would slow the chemical reaction. So A is incorrect. The increasing the size of the solid particles in a reaction involving solids, no. A decrease in size of solid would increase the speed of chemical reaction. So 2 is also incorrect. Increasing the temperature of any reaction, when the temperature of any reaction is increased, the rate at which the reaction proceeds also increases. So 3 is true. Increasing the concentration of solution means greater is the availability of the reactants. So yes, 3 and 4 would increase the rate of a chemical reaction. So C is the right option. Magnesium reacts with dilute H2SO4. So this is the reaction here. Two experiments carried out at 25 degrees C. 24 grams of powdered magnesium is reacted with 100 centimeter cube of 1 mole per decimeter cube sulfuric acid, and in experiment 2, 24 grams of powdered magnesium is reacted with 50 centimeter cube of 2 moles per decimeter cube sulfuric acid. During each experiment, the volume of hydrogen is produced and the results are plotted on a graph. Which graph is correct? So first of all, this volume of hydrogen produced means the rate at which the reaction proceeds. So first of all, if I check the number of moles involved here, so 0.1 decimeter cube reacts with 1 mole decimeter cube. So there is a total of 0.1 moles involved in experiment 1. In experiment 2, there are 0.05 decimeter cube into 2. So in experiment 2 again, 0.1 moles uh, sulfuric acid is being used. Now the amount of reactants in experiment 1 and 2 are the same. So at the end of the experiment, the volume of hydrogen produced would also be same, unlikely as in C and D. So now we have to find a graph which shows that which reaction is faster. In experiment 2, there is 2 moles per decimeter cube of sulfuric acid. The greater is the concentration, greater is the rate of reaction according to the law of reaction kinetics, according to the rules of reaction kinetics. In experiment 2, the concentration is greater. So A is the right answer. In which equations is the change in the underlined species correct? So CH4 plus 2 oxygen, CO2 plus 2 H2O. So first of all, in one, this carbon gains oxygen, so yes, it is being oxidized. So 2 here is oxidation again, because the hydrogen is being lost here. Hydrogen is not being gained. So 2 is also incorrect. In C, in 3, it is reduction. So what is reduction? Reduction is the gain of electrons. But here this bromine molecule loses electron. It transforms itself into an atom here, neutralizes itself. So only one is true. A is the right answer. The Haber process converts nitrogen and hydrogen into ammonia. So this is the reaction. Which row is correct? Change in condition, pressure is increased, moves to the left. Now when the pressure is increased, it moves to the when the pressure is increased, there are 4 moles here, there are 2 moles here. Pressure is increased, it should move to the right, where the number of moles of gas is lower according to the reaction kinetics of gases. When the pressure is reduced, the position of equilibrium has no change. So no pressure of position of equilibrium will be towards the right in this case. So no sorry, towards the pressure. When the pressure is reduced, the position of equilibrium would be towards right. Yes, I'm right. So A and B are incorrect. When the catalyst is present, moves to the right, the position of equilibrium. No, a catalyst only decreases the activation energy EA. It does not change the position of equilibrium. So when the catalyst is present, there is no change. Yes. So D is the right option. Which row shows the pH values for 0.1 moles per decimeter cube of ammonia, HCl, NaCl and NaOH? So ammonia is a base, so it will have pH greater than 7 definitely. So A and B are incorrect. C is the pH of ammonia. pH value of HCl. HCl is an acid, so it will have definitely lower than 7. So C and D are also incorrect. So C seems to be right answer. For NaCl, it's a salt. It's neutral, so it has a pH of 7. Yes. NaOH is a strong base, so it will have a pH of 13. So C is the right answer. The water in a lake is acidic and the fish are dying. The water in the lake needs to be neutralized. Which compound can be added in excess to neutralize the water in the lake? So calcium carbonate serves as a brilliant worker here. Calcium carbonate would uh, I'm writing dry out, but it will remove acidity and itself, and its excessivity will not harm as well. Calcium carbonate will reduce the acidity and neutralize the lake water, but it will not also it will not also affect the lake if it itself is in excess. So yes, a calcium carbonate would help. Phosphoric acid would not help because an acid cannot be used to neutralize an acid itself. Potassium hydroxide KOH, potassium hydroxide is not useful as well. Why is it not useful? Because although it uh, neutralizes the acidity, but then it again gets larger in quantity, and then it decreases the pH of the water. Sorry, increases the pH of the water. So it will also hamper the plants and the ecosystem. The sodium nitrate is salt, so it will not help as well. So calcium carbonate is the best option. A is the right answer. Two incomplete statements about the precipitation of an insoluble salts are given. So uh, dash can be used to prepare insoluble salts. Titration cannot be used to prepare this, so precipitation can be used, such as barium nitrate and lead sulfate. Barium nitrate is highly soluble in water. We know this. So lead sulfate can be used to. So lead sulfate can be prepared by precipitation. Whereas if we check for the filter, how would we collect the salt? I would collect the salt by the method of filtration, because lead sulfate would form a precipitate at the bottom, and then I will wash it and then I will dry it. So C is the right option. The Haber process is used to make ammonia, but at a temperature of 400 degrees C and at a pressure of 20,000 kilopascal. The temperature is changed to 500 degrees C, but the temperature is kept the same. What will be the effects of this change on the production of ammonia? So greater is the temperature, greater will be the rate of reaction, greater would be the production of ammonia. So C and D are incorrect. But this reaction between nitrogen and hydrogen to form ammonia is, the enthalpy is negative. It is a exothermic reaction. The forward reaction is exothermic. So when temperature is increased, the position of the equilibrium would be towards the left. So A is the right option. Some properties which indicate the differences in element are listed: metallic character, number of electron shells in an atom, number of protons in an atom, the total number of electrons in an atom. Which two properties increase across a period of the periodic table? So which of these properties increase horizontally? The metallic character reduces from potassium to the end at the oxygen and sulfur something. The metallic character decreases. Number of electron shells in an atom remain same in a period. So 2, 1 and 2 are incorrect. The number of protons in an atom do increase. Yes. The total number of electrons in an atom increase as well as the number of protons increase. So D is the right option. Elements X and Y combine to form an ionic compound. So atoms of X have more protons than atoms of Y. Atoms of Y have more valence electrons than an atom of X. Which statement is correct? So X and Y combine to form an ionic compound, whereas Y has more valence electrons. If it has more valence electrons, it will gain more electrons to get itself the electronic configuration of the nearest noble gas by forming a negative ion. So ions of Y would be negatively charged. So A is incorrect. Atoms of X have more electron shells than atoms of Y. So atoms of X have more protons than atoms of Y. So what does it mean by more protons? That it has a greater atomic number, and to accommodate the greater number of electrons, it will have more electron shells than atoms of Y. So yes, B can be true. Whereas the X and Y are in the same period of the periodic table. No, this is not true. How can we validate this, evaluate from this from this data? And similarly, X and Y are in the same group of the periodic table. No, we cannot evaluate this, and we do not have to actually. So B is the right option. The elements in group 1 of the periodic table shows trends in both their reactivity and their melting points. So rubidium is in group 1. Which statement about the rubidium is correct? It has a higher melting point than potassium. I'm not sure about this one. It reacts with water to produce an acidic solution. Reacts with water to produce an acidic solution. Hmm. I'm not sure about this one as well. It reacts with water to produce oxygen gas. So rubidium plus to produce Rb plus H2. Oh, sorry, RbH plus. I'm not sure about C as well. It is more reactive than potassium. Now I know one thing, and I am pretty much sure about this, that the activity of the metals increase down the group, and potassium is above rubidium. I would choose D definitely. I will go with D. D, in my opinion, is the right answer. I'm not sure, but D makes sense for me the most. The properties of four substances are shown. Which substance is a metal? So it conducts electricity when dissolved in water, but not when solid. Metals do not dissolve in water, and they are not even tried to dissolve. So it has a high melting point. Yes, it has, and conducts heat when solid. So this makes sense. It has a low melting point and it is brittle. No, it is not. Metals are not brittle. They have high melting point. It has a giant covalent structure with high melting point. Metals have metallic bonding. They do not have a covalent structure. So B is the right option. Group 1 elements and transition elements are metals. Yes, we know this. Group Student X suggested the group 1 element are above hydrogen in the metal reactivity series, but not all transition elements are. Yes, this is true. So Student Y suggests that the densities of group 1 elements are lower than those of the transition elements. So which students are correct? So definitely the group 1 elements, which are sodium and potassium, are above hydrogen in the reactivity series. You can check this from your book as well. So one student X is true, he is speaking true. Student Y suggests that the densities of group 1 elements are lower than those of the transition elements. Yes, sodium and potassium, suppose sodium and potassium have much lower densities than the copper, cobalt, titanium. Similarly, we have cadmium as well. So both students are true. A is the right option. Tin is more reactive than lead but less reactive than iron. So which method would be most suitable for extracting tin from its ore? So tin is more reactive than lead. Tin is above lead in the reactivity series but lower than the iron. So which method would be most suitable for extracting tin from its ore? So heating alone cannot be used for extraction of tin. Electrolysis is used for iron but not below iron. I think I'm true for electrolysis. Check this as well. Heating with carbon, yes, this can be true. Reacting with hydrogen, so tin would not react with hydrogen as well. So heating with carbon makes most sense. So C is the right option. Attaching pieces of magnesium to underground iron pipes can protect the iron from corrosion. Which reaction protects the iron from corrosion? So magnesium is a sacrificial metal. We know this. So sacrificial metal itself loses electrons and does not enable the atmosphere to uh, deteriorate the original metal on which it is surrounded. So iron would not itself take part in the reaction and magnesium would lose electrons itself. So D is the right answer. Which reactions take place during the extraction of aluminum from Al to O3 using carbon electrodes? So oxygen is first of all manufactured along with four electrons, and these four electrons react with aluminium to form react with aluminium ions to form aluminium. So yes, one is true. Carbon and carbon react with oxygen to form CO2, uh, which then escapes as an impurity. So yes, two is true as well. Al2 positive. Aluminium is 3 positive. Remember this. So 3 is incorrect. B is the right option. Which statement about the gases in the atmosphere is correct? CO is a pollutant which causes acid rains. CO is a pollutant. I'm not sure about this. Is it a pollutant? And CO is a pollutant. I do not think it is a pollutant here. Catalytic converters reduce carbon monoxide to carbon dioxide. So catalytic converters reduce carbon monoxide to CO2. No, they oxidize carbon monoxide. They oxidize. So B is incorrect. Methane in the atmosphere depletes the ozone layer. So methane in the atmosphere depletes the ozone layer. No, methane is a greenhouse gas. It does not do this. Photosynthesis adds oxygen to the atmosphere. Yes, when CO2 and water combine in the sunlight along with chlorophyll, glucose is formed and oxygen is evolved towards evolved towards the atmosphere. So yes, D is true. I would go with D. D is the right option. How many moles of HCl are formed when 1 mole of methane reacts with a large excess of chlorine in sunlight? So how many moles of hydrogen chloride? So when methane CH4 reacts with chlorine, so it would react with two chlorines to form CCl4 carbon tetrachloride along with 4 moles of HCl in sunlight. So D is the right option. Compound X is shown in the dot and cross diagram. I would like to do the pen here. So it's shown in the dot and cross diagram. Which statement about compound X is true? So it is a saturated hydrocarbon. No, this is a double bond here. This is a double bond. So it is not a saturated. It's an isomer of butene. There are a total of 3 carbons. So it would have something like and propane and propyl like this one. So it is not an isomer of butene. It will decolorize bromine water. Yes, it will decolorize bromine water because it contains double bonds. It would love to accommodate bromine in it, and it will decolorize bromine water by addition reaction. So C is true. Its name is propane. No, it is propene, I guess, because there is a double bond involved. So C is the right option. Which statement about alcohols are correct? All alcohols contain the hydroxide ion. So yes, one is true. One is true. No, all the alcohols contain the hydroxide ion. No, they do not contain the hydroxide ion. They contain the hydroxide group. They contain the hydroxide group. They do not contain the hydroxide ion. So one is incorrect. Ethanol can be formed from ethene using a reaction catalyzed by yeast. No, ethanol cannot be manufactured from ethene. We know this. Methanol can be oxidized to methanoic acid. Yes, when methanol is treated with oxygen, it forms methanoic acid, and then this later on forms an ester when it reacts with a uh, when it reacts with something else. I do not remember exactly what that was. So when it will react with another alcohol, so yes, it will form first of all it will form methanoic acid, and then it will form an ester when treated with alcohol. So 3 is true. Alcohols X and Y are shown are isomers. So 1 2 3 4 carbons, 1 2 3 4 carbons, and OH and this OH is in the second carbon and it is at the first carbon here. So 3 and 4 are true. D is the right option. An ester an ester has a formula C2H5CO C2H5, and which pair of compounds would react together to form this ester? So red would work. So there are 1, 2, and 3. There are a total of 3 molecules of carbon, 3 molecules of carbon from the acidic part, and there is an ethanol presence here, 2 carbons. So ethanol and propanoic acid, 1, 2, 3. So 3 carbons mean propanoic acid or from the acidic part, and then the ethanol. So B is the right option. Which statement about the polymers is correct? Nylon and terylene both are polyesters. No, they both are not. Proteins and nylon have the same monomer units. No, they do not have the same monomer units, but they have the same amide linkages. So proteins and have the same amide linkages as nylon. Yes, that's what I had said earlier. Terylene and fats are esters, but with different linkages. No, I'm not sure about this one, but C makes most sense. So C is the right option for me. X is a polymer. When X is hydrolyzed, one of the products is a substance Y. So which type of polymer is X? So what is this Y? Methyl group, carboxyl group, amine group. So it is an amino acid. It's an amino acid. And amino acid is produced when protein is hydrolyzed. When protein is hydrolyzed, amino acid is produced. So X is a protein. C is the right answer. So that's all for our today's video. Hope you have understood. Make sure to like and subscribe, and press the bell icon for upcoming videos and past papers. Allah Hafiz.